Welcome to the flowerschool.com video library. I'm Leanne Kessler, Director of the Floral Design Institute, here to share with you our latest segment on the feasting table. 'Tis the season for family gatherings and fine dinners. Thanksgiving, that's the best, but it could be many times just a family gathering or a gathering of friends around the table for the feast of the season. With flowers, we also have a bounty to choose from. And so my thoughts were, let's take the feast for the eyes and turn it into beautiful decor for the feasting table. If you're like me, you know that just as soon as you get the table set, you have all the plates, all the glassware, all the silverware, and you try to put the dishes on and flowers too, there's oftentimes no room for a beautiful centerpiece. So this design is done in components, lots of individual little pieces. I started with glass cubes of various sizes and then a glass rectangle too. The only mechanic, clear waterproof tape. And by doing it in little components like this, when the table is empty, no food, you can cluster them together. As it gets full of food, you can move them around, decide that, well, this one isn't going to fit, now it has to move over here. Oh my goodness, this one doesn't fit, let's move him over here. And you can set them on a side table, you can spread them out, move them closer together, whatever it takes to make it all fit and still look beautiful. You want to start by creating a grid, just taping from one side across to the other. And on the large cube, I do 3 times across. And then repeat that. Go in the other direction. And then to make sure that it stays put, go around the perimeter, all the way over the top of each of those that you already did. And then when you're done, chew the end up just a little bit so that you don't lose it later. And go back where it was chewed up to start with at the beginning. Remove that. For the smaller size, I just do twice across. You don't need 3. I don't have room for 3. So cross across. Repeat. Then I just run my fingers along, making sure that it's all secured. And then I go back and add water. As I assemble, I like to think a little bit differently. Yes, I have flowers, sunflowers, lilies, roses, but I want to think about the mature garden, the true autumn harvest essence. And so I might have some colorful leaves, maybe some leaves that are even starting to drop, and just berries, rose hips, pepperberry, so many different things. Yes, I like foliage as well, because growing up here in the Pacific Northwest, even in the autumn, when the trees lose their leaves and they change colors, we have so much green. And so that's natural to me to keep that incorporated. So I might go ahead and add a little bit of the ruscus to bring in a base of green before I even begin. And just feeding it down into the grid. Crossing from one side of the vessel to the other. Getting it to stand upright. They kind of take on a life of their own when you're dealing with a cube. Then once I get a little bit of green in there, going back and thinking about the berries. And do I want the whole thing or just a portion? And this particular branch is so gorgeous, I think I am going to use pretty much the whole thing. Cutting it down. Removing the lower portion, because I don't want that to get caught up into my tape. That one even is going to not quite fit, so I'm going to cut him off and save him. And I have this beautiful branch that I can set right down in, finding a hole, and a little bit of the nandina. Looking at it and determining, is something going to go into the water? I don't want any leaves underneath the tape. So I pull those down, give it a cut, and then set it down in. Heavier things, like the beautiful rose hips. Placing that in early, finding a hole. And I know sometimes they say, oh, you shouldn't mix two types of berries. But why not? I love them. Rose hips and berries both. Oh, too wonderful. Let's really be awful and add a third type of berry, the pepper berry. Oh my gosh, gotta have it all. This one has some bad parts. I'm gonna clip those out. It may be a mature garden, but I don't want it to look like a dead garden. There we go. And giving it a cut and dropping it in place. As you finish with the base wildness, you want to turn it, double checking that you've got things everywhere that you want, that it all fits together. Maybe go back and add a little bit of berries where there maybe isn't some, maybe a little more of the nandina to get a tiny bit more color. And then you're finally ready for the flowers. You've got beautiful little baby sunflowers. They're not too big. They'll look lovely in here. And just cutting them down and nestling them into the nest. I'm going to group a couple over here, maybe one more. 3 of them grouped onto this side. And then I don't want the yellow to stay just here. So I'm going to go ahead and bring some over to the opposite side. Removing the larger leaves so that they don't overpower. Setting it down, and maybe grouping a second one. And every time I place something, it helps to lock everything else in place. Because with the taped grid, that's just the beginning. And then the flower stems, that grids it in place the rest of the way. Now some roses. The roses may seem a little formal for this, but the red color is so fabulous that I just have to add that. It gives a very luxurious richness to the design. Maybe even tucking it down low, bringing another one a little bit above. And then with the yellows and oranges and reds would be just fabulous to go ahead and add an autumn lily, pulling the colors together, maybe even letting it come out over the top a bit so it just rests right on top of the sunflower. And then going back, thinking, what else do I need? Well, I don't think I need another sunflower. Maybe just a little more texture to enhance the finished design.